become old, we realize the importance of money. So today we are all going to learn how to become rich by 30.
I'm definitely going to have a conversation. I don't know how hard, it's a very difficult thing to try to become rich by the time you're 30, as I'm sure you guys realize. So some of this is just what you do with your first money. My opinion is always have a plan for your first money. It's always so easy when you're young to want to go and have a good time and have as much fun as you can with all your friends. But it's not always the best idea, financially speaking, for your future. So I don't know if you guys are the same, but when I was younger, I didn't necessarily know myself well enough to determine a path to become rich. I wasn't thinking, I did want to be rich by the time I was 30, but was I really thinking of a way to become rich by 30? Or was I just dreaming of being rich by 30? What do you guys think? I know for me, I always felt like I was going to happen magically somehow. It was going to happen. How about you guys?
Yeah, I would first even think, hey, what is the definition of being rich? It's so different. Some people, they are born with a silver spoon, so they might not realize value in. Some others might have some dreams. Like I know I come from India. I've heard, actually, it was pretty shocking that some people have a dream just to buy a Mac and they think, hey, I'll be rich and I'll get this. And some people want to buy a car. So it's very different for everybody. I think we should also discuss, maybe Ganesh can chime in here. Like, what do you feel? Like, what do you mean when you think, when you hear this? What is being rich for you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, rich is so subjective. I mean, thinking back when I was a teenager, I was a very confused teenager. I didn't know whether to be like, I don't know, a doctor, banker, lawyer, or even, someone, like an entrepreneur. And then, frankly, I wasn't even thinking about, I want to be rich back then. I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore different new hobbies. I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to be, most of all, independent. And that was a challenge. But I realized that, to be independent, you have to be rich in some respect. So every person has a different definition of rich, which allows them to be independent.
So you're talking about like you need to know you need the money to support what you dream of doing. Basically, is what you're saying. Yes, like you realize at a certain point that yeah, I want to do all of these things, but I have to have something to afford the things that I want to do. And the path to that is, whatever it can be. It can be anybody's dream. Anybody's dream could probably get them there. But for you, that's kind of what took you along that path.
Yeah, and exactly right. I mean, money is one aspect for sure, but then some people say that it goes beyond money. For example, to travel and to get shared experiences with friends or on by himself or herself, like backpacking, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But that's another form of richness, which may not be driven by money, but you need money to as a starting point.
I
Yeah.
think what we are saying, money gives you freedom, right? It facilitates what you want to do. So let's go with that definition.
That
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah. Now, Survey, you're pretty unique because you're an immigrant to the U.S., right, from India, and first generation, from what I understand, if I'm correct. Am I mistaken? And
Correct.
that's a big leap. Obviously, it's a big task. So your goals are probably significantly different than most people's would have been at a younger age. Give me a little bit about that. I don't really actually know what your history is and what brought you here.
Yeah, so I come from a business family in India where everybody has an established business. Generally, like kids get their parents' business, and I wanted to travel around the world. I was born with that dream that hey, I want to travel, and my parents were like, then yeah, find it out, because mostly in our family you go take a holiday. That's the only travel. So my only motivation was, yeah, I want to do something on my own and experience this life, and I want studying was the easiest way so that I could be independent, think what I want to do. And I had a vision but definitely had no path, no guidance, but I just worked hard, established my career, and my dream was to take a flight to this country and establish my dreams. And I acquired all that skill set while in India, did my engineering, and I'm still learning, like from people like you, still not on track.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's always, trust me, I even learn from myself all the time. Don't worry. All my stupid mistakes always make me smarter every day. It's like, you don't get smarter without mistakes that you make. So, and it's a constant battle of what did I miss here? What did I miss there? No big deal. You can't feel too bad about it. You got to keep moving forward. I always try to tell my kids that the race is in front of you. Whatever happened behind you is behind you. Yeah, reflect on it. Don't take too long though, because, you know, there's a lot of things happening in front of you. You don't have a lot to wait for. So my big thing is the race is in front of you. Keep going. Success is made on a lot of failures. Everybody knows that, though. My other thing is that what did I know about myself when I was younger? Did I know what I really wanted out of life? How important were those things in my life? It sounds like, Surabhi, you really did know kind of what you wanted at an early age.
So all I knew that if I have a credit card in my phone, if you leave me anywhere in the world, I'll be fine. So when it was my first trip, it was my business trip to Canada. I had some weird, interesting experience. I didn't want to fly by myself. I asked the manager, "Hey, can I go with other my colleagues?" But returning back was solo trip, and I was so nervous. But then I realized after I did a lot of traveling just because of my work. But then I was like, "Hey, I need a credit card and some data. That's it. You leave me anywhere, I know how to go to home then." And money gives me that power. It's not that I'm gonna waste it, but it gives you that freedom, that independence, and that's my mantra in life.
Yeah, you like the independence to be able to go where you want to go and do what you want to do.
So
Yeah,
wait,
be responsible at the same time, but yeah, I don't have to depend on somebody else, and it just gives you that mental freedom as well.
so wait, if you have a credit card and a phone and you're stuck in an Amazon rainforest, would you be fine?
This is
Yeah.
this is the opposite, by the way. The credit card phone thing, going wherever and spending whatever, is the opposite of trying to become rich when you're 30. By the way, just so everybody knows, that's if you want to be rich by the time you're 30, it's not credit card and phone.
Debit card would also work. I didn't mean to say that. What I meant, it just gives you that
Fine.
freedom. I don't need to know everything. I can be fine.
Yeah, I know.
I have those factors figured out.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, that's the way everybody is. I mean, I kind of knew early I wanted to own my own business. Like that's one of the things. But I had a fantasy of what that was compared to what it really became. So when I did start my first business, I was very young. And it was incredibly challenging because every weakness I had was put right in front of me. If I failed at something, there was nobody to blame for it. It was me. I failed. It was my whatever weakness I had or whatever I didn't plan for or whatever I didn't execute came back on me. So it really did help grow me. I think becoming an entrepreneur is one of the best ways to improve yourself and also a great way to become rich by the time you're 30 if you have realistic expectations, which at 20 for my first business, I did not. I did not have realistic expectations of what that would be. I thought I would be rich within 2 years.
What
Which is
should we tell our listeners here? What tips should we give? Because I think we all are above 30, so we have a lot of experience. I won't ask you your age, but maybe we should share, something from our experience and help people to realize their dreams.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
thinking
Ganesh,
about
start
so
there.
this so thinking about this conversation,
Mhm.
basically what I'm hearing is that there are three ways to be rich in some way. The first one is like be independent by being an entrepreneur or, improving one's skill set, getting a nice job where one can be happy. The second and third things, which I don't think we discussed, maybe this out of scope or it's in scope, TBD. But second one is to inherit well. Inherit well means like from your grandma or become your favorite godson of someone, some stranger of some sort. That could be something that could be in scope or out of scope,
Well,
TBD.
it's
The
out
third
of my
one,
scope for sure.
Put it in my scope. No, it's beyond my control.
Yeah, yeah, Ganesh, I tried to find the people that were wealthy in my family to help me out, give me a little
hey,
cash.
I mean, I'm just thinking about things in our
Oh, that's
control
true.
and things outside of our control. And then the third thing is to marry well, where because if you marry well, then you can automatically, achieve one or two somewhat. But basically, those are the three things that one can do. But some of it,
Well, I'll say
it's,
there's
it's
actually
more
more than
challenging than
that.
others.
Yeah, the funny thing is, some people always, they think that there's certain ways to become wealthy. A lot of people think it's to start your own business. A lot of people think it's, you go get a good education, get a good position in a company. I'll tell you what, I've known a lot. I worked in the trades when I was younger, and a lot of those people made a lot of money when they were young because they didn't have the debt of school on their back. They were in their trade by the time they were, teenagers because their family worked in the trades. And by the time they were in their early 20s, they owned their own business, their own contracting business, And by the time they were 30, they were technically a millionaire. And it really was just being frugal and starting early, not having a lot of debt, not carrying a lot of debt, and working very hard at their craft, starting their own business, getting a crew, and they made it. So they didn't have the formal education that we feel like is required to accomplish some of these things. They accomplished it through a different method of effort, which is interesting to me too. That everybody thinks there's just one, there's one good way to do it, and there's all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
So
some
what
people,
should we
oh,
do
go
if,
ahead.
sorry, I was saying not everybody can start a business. Like I really want to do my own startup, but as you know, I'm an immigrant. I have some technical limitations. So what would you suggest someone like me who has big dreams and want to become rich? And I do want to share one of my unique perspectives. When like people start earning, people believe in saving a lot. I think I did that as well. But looking back, that doesn't translate to a lot because what saving at that point was like very insignificant now, right? Like after you're working for a couple of years. So what is other fast forward formula other than saving? I mean, saving, I'm not saying discount that, but what else can somebody do, like having a full-time
Sure.
job, maybe save, spending wisely? I won't say saving, it's like spending wisely. And what else can we do?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting statement. I think some of it has to do with habits, right? So you say saving, it's not a lot of money that you're saving early on. Some of it has to do with establishing those habits, though. Even if you don't feel like it's a significant amount of money, you're training yourself to use your money in the manner that's appropriate down the road. So when you do start getting more money, you kind of have a habit of living a certain way. And as you get more money, instead of immediately thinking of what you can do with that money from a buying standpoint, you start to think, okay, I have a little more that I can put away as well. And you start creating a good habit of continuously putting money in the bank or into investments. And I'm a big, there's lots of ways you can invest your money. When you're younger, my big thing is first find something, put your money into the stock market, one, and put it into something that's easy. Put it into something that you don't have to watch. You don't need a financial advisor to do that. You can just put it into like an ETF that covers one of the benchmarks, such as the S&P 500, and learn from that process. Learn how to follow the markets and get comfortable with putting the money into the markets and getting a consistent return, so that later on you can become a little more sophisticated with that investment. So that's one. I'm not big on leaving your money in a bank. Make sure you're investing it wisely into something that you have ownership of. Two is real estate. Real estate's a great investment. The first property you buy should be something that you can look at as an investment down the road. You want something that's going to appreciate in value for you. Some people just pay rent all the time. My big thing is if you can afford to buy an apartment or something of that sort, or a multi-family, split level or something that you can live in one level and then rent the other. Those are great ways of establishing something from a foundational principle that can really pay dividends down the road. You can just, if you find the right property, you literally can become a millionaire just from one good property choice early in your life.
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's important to develop those early habits early on. But the problem is that, in the world of, being a millennial or even a Gen Z or what have you,
Gen X.
we live, or even Gen X, or even baby boomers, or even
I'm not
greatest
aging
generation.
myself or anything. Hey, I'm not a boomer.
But the point is that we live in a world of information overload, where information is coming left and right. We have Bitcoin, we have real estate, we have stocks, we have even new things that just came out, like NFT, non-fungible tokens, which are like digital art pieces. Like, where do we start? How do we know where to build our habits? Because, thinking about myself early on, I had all these things, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Once upon a time, I traveled to Australia. Now, Australia is a fun country. It's going to grow. So maybe it's an Australia ETF. But how should we think about this more systematically in
Yeah,
choosing what habits?
yeah, because I share my own challenge. I was here and I felt, because we all, when it's our first job, we consider, it's hard-earned money. I used to do like crazy amount of shopping when I was not earning. And now the things are say, hey, I don't have to ask my parents. And then I was not shopping out a lot because like, oh, I realized the value of money more. And my
Yeah.
parents would say, what happened to you now? You were somebody who would just shop a lot. So what I meant to say, because you consider that yes, money is hard earned. So even while investing, it's very important because that was super important to me that, hey, if I want to invest, I want to take calculated risk. I
Yeah.
don't want to lose it all. And maybe it's like men and women are different. I think I have discussed with a lot of women of my age, which are like, yeah, they earn and they don't know what to invest. Maybe then people put it in CD. Real estate also is little difficult because you need a lot of knowledge where to buy. Like even now in US, we don't know whether I live in Bay Area, should I buy it here or with remote work, it's gonna go somewhere else. So what do you advise which is more secure but gives you a good head start, and then as you build confidence, you can
Yeah.
get started?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's the thing. You do want to stay within your range of knowledge, right? So I grew up, again, in a contracting family. And so my range of knowledge in real estate was very high. So I was set well to be able to do that without much risk from my side. There's still risk, but I know by learning from my parents, I know what is good and what's not good. So I had a good foundation there. And then I started, in the stock market when the first stock I bought was when I was 12 years old. So I was following, yeah, and then you couldn't follow it on the computer. You had to follow it by a newspaper. You would, look at. Does anybody know what a newspaper is anymore? Anyway, you follow it on a newspaper and you find your share.
You
And it
got
was
one of those certificates?
yeah, you got certificates. That's right. It wasn't digital. Like the trading now is so fast. Everything happens so fast. Then, you bought a particular stock. I bought it was between two stocks. One stock was Dow Chemicals and the other stock was AT&T. I bought AT&T because I liked the telecommunication route. And when I bought them before they split into Lucent Technologies and then some other company I won't mention, Alc something or other. Anyway, so I actually bought at a great time, got the Lucent stock, which did very well for a while, and I sold all of that when I was buying my first property. So, I rolled it into some other type of investment. I didn't just take it and blow, I made good money on it. I didn't take it and just use it to buy whatever. I used it to buy a property. And it was great because the timing was perfect. Lucent went under and AT&T just kind of stayed with its dividend thing. And I haven't really looked back. I'm not really worried about that anymore. But that's an example where I started learning early on something very conservative. And I had my dad to kind of tell me, hey, here's how stocks work. And you want to pick something that has a good, solid foundation that is going to be around a long time. And you don't want to get too risky when you're first doing this because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, even as you get older, it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. You can take a little more risk here and there, but you don't want to take, when you're younger, you definitely want to just make sure you're dabbling in things that have solid, consistent returns. I always like to tell people, find something that has a good dividend return, find an ETF that follows one of the solid benchmarks, like the S&P 500 benchmark. If you bought an S&P 500 ETF, you're fine. You just leave it there and let it grow for a period of time, follow it, get comfortable learning things, and then you can expand out from there. But other than that, yeah, there's so many different ways. Like you said, you can get lost in the weeds with all the ways you can invest. So when you're early on, keep it simple. When you do start to get a little bit of money, find good advice, right? That's kind of the way I look at it. You're not going to have the time to do it all yourself. Find somebody that has good advice for you.
Yeah. And I also like Darish's point where he mentioned, like very interesting ways to pursue wealth. I wish I learned it early on. I should have met you, Ganesh. I missed that to get that knowledge because like what I think like hard work has helped me to acquire wealth because then I'm more wise in even spending that money. If it's easy money, then even a responsible person like me could become a little reckless. Oh, it's a prize, it's a gift money. So I have in my mind sometimes if it's a gift money, I was like, oh, let me, just do this. It's a gift money. I didn't work hard for this. But the ways I would accumulate like wealth, how if I have to think, mostly what I've been taught is like by investment because money should generate money for you. So you work hard for the first base money and then you take that money, put in action so that it works for you. Top examples like you invest in real estate, you invest in stocks, so that multiplies your money. And I think that's the reason you always have to be careful with where you invest or spend. I would say spending wisely. Yeah.
Well, like you're just saying though, like this is about like maintaining what you've developed in your life and keeping what you really want, right? So if what I love in life is one thing and I need to work hard to get that, that's what, if I like really nice cars, that's okay. That can be a focus or a desire that you want. And if you want to keep that, you have to make something to be able to support that goal that you have of the car, right? For me, it's like, okay, if relationships are important to me, I have to put my time into those relationships and developing those relationships. Or if travel is important to me, well, I have to make sure I'm consistently doing that as part of my life, and I have to create those experiences. But there has to be something behind that to support it, right? You can't just willy-nilly jump all over the world and not really have the ability to keep yourself going. You don't want to be a burden to other individuals either. So what are the ways that you do that? And I think it really comes down to kind of the habits that you establish in your life that allow you to keep living that rich life that you've created for yourself. Some of those might be, just like saving and investments, like you just mentioned. You can do a multitude of investments. There's lots of ways to invest properly, but starting early in assessing, okay, I have some money. What do I do with it? Spend it on really quick on everything that I possibly could want, or do I start developing habits early on of putting a little bit away so that a delayed gratification, right? I can have a richer life if I have a little bit of a delayed gratification where I can build some wealth that allows me to go do the things that I want to do in a bigger way, right?
I think to Mike's and Subi's point, do you want to live to work or do you want to work to live? And I think that's important because, based on the different types of choices and lifestyles that you want, you may want to choose uh, one or the other. Working to live is a perfectly fine choice, but living to work is another fine choice. There's no one right answer here. But the point is that with passive income versus active income, whether if it's form of money or shared relationships, whether if it's with your spouse, your partner, or whoever, or even with, human beings are essentially social creatures. And when we are social creatures, we need to develop that foundation for that social interaction. And at the same time, we also want freedom to do our own thing independently. So I know I'm digressing a little bit here, but I think the point is that two-way feedback with space to grow in wherever we want to go is super important, at least to me.
I think that makes sense because having that clear vision, managing your own life, your based on your risk appetite, because ultimately it's about being comfortable, right? Not like we all have different type of as we
Right.
discussed, we three are even different, and all of us are very different. So respecting those core values and be in alignment with that, because what if you are making wealthy, but that, as we define wealth, is not just money, so it has to form that coherence with the goals, the vision. Yeah.
Right.
So how do you, but what were yours? What was your strategy like when you were young? How did you define your value system? Because we all tend to get influenced a lot, like what we watch, what do we read, what do we hear, what examples we have in our life from our elders, teachers and all.
I think for me, I was very aware that my life was my own, if that makes sense. So early on, I
What
was
does that
like,
mean?
well, you have habits that your parents build for you, and they have a structure and they have a desire for the things that they would want you to become, and you want to follow through and make them proud of this or that. But early on for me, I was very aware that I had an existence. I was conscious, and I knew that my life was my own, and I could make it what I would want. And when you're younger, that's not necessarily good because you get into a little bit of trouble here and there. You get a little more rambunctious and wild, and you do more things that you maybe probably shouldn't. Good advice is good advice, regardless of whether you realize it or not. But I knew that life was such a wonderful thing, right? It's a gift. It's something that I have. It's mine, and I wanted to make it whatever I wanted to make it. I didn't want to be answerable to other people's perspectives of what it should be. And that's not always a great thing, honestly. You should have regard for other people, right? So if other people have different values and different things that they find valuable in life, you should have respect for that. If somebody finds it valuable to have a family and have kids and raise those kids, great. If they feel like it's best to be independent and on their own, great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's your life and your decision. So that's kind of the thing. Like, oh, it's mine, and then taking that and not pushing that perspective onto other individuals that I meet or look at their lives and be like, oh, I don't know, that's not necessarily the way I think it should be done. I try to avoid that a little bit and just be a little bit more, okay, that's their life. They do as they, whatever they find to be important for their lives, that's good. That's, I may not want to live my life that way. I may not want, to see that for my kids because it may not be, it might be uncomfortable, but for other people, it might be perfectly comfortable. It might be the fantastic living in a van, driving around the country. Never want to do it.
So
Some
can you
people,
do
the
that?
most wonderful thing in the world for them.
Yeah. Would you drive, like, would you do similar?
Yeah. Could you imagine me driving around in a van and like from one place to the next, camping out and just like living off the woods or whatever? No, it's nothing against it. I think it's great for people, but I couldn't do it.
I think one quick question that keep bugging me in the back of my mind. Like you say you like fancy cars. What's the fancy car that you like, Mike?
What's a fancy car that I like?
Yeah.
It used to be the Bugatti. Now it's a Ford GT.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah. Is that a good car? I don't know.
It is definitely a good car.
I have a friend who has a Ferrari collection. He has a Ferrari collection, and his Ferrari collection, I was like, you need to have a Ford GT in your collection just to have good history there.
It reminds me of that movie Ford versus Ferrari, which is a movie I highly recommend to friends and family. It talks about a bit of that history. I think for me, to Sylvie's point, I live life like a very confused millennial. I always want option value, and I always want ability to choose A, B, C, D, E, F, G instead of just choosing A at any given point in time. So to give you an example, like growing up, I was very fortunate and privileged to have parents who wanted me to go towards a career path. They wanted me to become a doctor. But at the same time, I was a teenage rebel and said, okay, I want to be other things. Do you want to be a banker? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be a national park ranger or something like that? And basically, that sort of confusion persisted throughout. So that's part of the reason maybe why instead of like saving for a down payment for a home, I don't think like that. I think maybe I want to maybe rent in perpetuity. And that gives me option value to be in one side of the country versus another. But the common theme is that, independence. When I do want to be, when I was young, one of my life goals was to live in a big city on my own with a bunch of friends. And that big city at the time, given that I grew up in New York, was Manhattan, where living in Manhattan, the hustle and bustle in a very diverse nature of where people of all walks of life are walking the sidewalk, that appealed to me very much. But Manhattan is crazy expensive. So in order to make those ends meet, I'd have to basically live with, 5 different roommates or so. But it afforded a very rich life where I had the social interaction and was able to realize a dream of being independent and be in a big city where I could call my place home. So that sort of thing, is continuing to persist. But as I go from option A through G, those options are now changing into other things. Maybe I might want to be in the West Coast. Maybe you might want to be in Florida or what have you. But the point is that the option value is something that's unique to me, and I like to maintain that as much as I can.
Yeah, I think it resonates with me. I have lived in, I think, maybe 10 different cities throughout my life, maybe more. I don't think I can count now because as I shared, I really wanted to, that was my one sole purpose of the life, that I want to, rotate the globe, and wherever it stops, I want to go there. Sometimes I had that glass globe on my desk, and I was like, okay, where do I go next? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so I totally get it. Like, not investing in one place, but I was always very mindful because I'm maybe a little old fashioned than you, that, I always think, this is like hard earned money, and, I have to always have to have it because it gives me that confidence, that power. I don't have, I mean, I can always ask for, like, we all can in fact take, as you said, inheritance, but it gives you a different kind of confidence if you make it on your own, right? Because my parents always tell me, hey, like, living in this country all by myself, why are you even there? Because as you know, Indian lifestyle or many other countries have everything taken care of. You don't have to, like, I was somebody, my mom would say, this girl doesn't even lift water, because I used to be very studious types. I would just study and I will just call my mom, send me water, send me food, and my food will come to my room. And now it is so different. So it's a life choice that we make, but it gives you again, that takes you that to your power, where you acknowledge, right, what you want.
Yeah.
So I think we have discussed like very interesting stuff today, that what it means to be wealthy, and it goes beyond just the money value. It could be for some people gold, jewelry, houses, cars. I don't agree too much because they have depreciation value, but I love cars. So
Certain cars appreciate in value, Surabhi. It's not like all cars go down in value.
I've not heard that, unless you are an expert, you buy a crappy car, take
Yeah.
it out. I don't know even that. I always I mean, that's what I learned, but I also like cars. So but yeah, my thinking is like, I know, this is something, a gift for myself, and maybe I deserve that. That's my
Yeah, that's a
thinking.
good
I'm not
point.
thinking from investment percent, thinking from fun part, because that is also important. If you earn, you need to spend wisely. Yeah.
Well, on the other side of that too, Surabhi, is that, like you're saying there, is don't just make money for the sake of having money.
Yes.
If you're going to make money, make sure it's fulfilling something of value as well to you, beyond just the material value of the money itself. You can get really stuck on, I've known people that get just really stuck on having money, and all they do is they never spend it. They just keep it all, and they don't try, they don't do anything fun or enjoyable. So that can be a big issue as well. Anyway, I think that's been great. I mean, it's amazing learning about you guys too and your perspectives. I think we've covered a lot of ground today in particular, and I actually like what I'm hearing. I think, defining wealth as something more than just monetary is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in future episodes, we hope to cover some of these different topics that we discuss in greater detail. So it's going to be like life is a journey. So hopefully you'll be part of the journey with us all together.
I totally agree. It's never the destination. As you guys said, being rich is not a destination. It's about living a rich life, and we will discuss further how to do that. Thank you everyone for joining us. We had a great time doing this, and I hope you had a great time listening this. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.